Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Lots of things are happening in Congress. In the House, Republicans successfully tanked two radical bills fast-tracked by Nancy Pelosi. While in the Senate, Democrats are working on two tracks for the trillion-dollar infrastructure proposal. Texas is in the forefront on a number of issues. This week, Governor Greg Abbott signed two important bills into law. Fulton County, Georgia is missing hundreds of ballot transfer documents. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is now looking into it. Democrats aren't just afraid of the Arizona audit results. There's more to it. Someone who toured the audit floor offers more insights. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. On Tuesday, a group of conservative Republicans in the Freedom Caucus successfully tanked two Democratic bills. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi attempted to fast-track them through the chamber using a procedure called suspension of the rules, which requires a two-thirds House supermajority to succeed. The underlying message here is Democrats don't believe Republicans are unified enough to take them down. However, the Freedom Caucus has a counter-strategy for this, and it achieved a stunning success. But before we get into that, let's first find out what the two bills propose. One measure favors lending to LGBTQ-owned businesses in the same way as minority-owned businesses. Financial services would prioritize lending based on whether you're LGBTQ rather than your credit rating. The other measure facilitates government funding access to abortion drugs through the Department of Veteran Affairs. These two bills pretty much tell you what's on the minds of radical Democrats. The Freedom Caucus is a congressional meeting consisting of conservative Republican members. Chairman Andy Biggs said their position has always been to fight on every issue. Biggs and other House conservatives asked to roll call votes when there's a suspension of the rules. In roll call votes, lawmakers vote as their names are called and a running count is displayed. The Freedom Caucus wants transparency, that's number one. Number two, it wants everyone's vote on the record. And number three, it forces the voting speed down. That's the strategy conservative House members have been using for months. On Tuesday, these two radical measures failed to garner enough votes to proceed. The development was a significant loss for Democrats and the left. Biggs said this is precisely what Republican voters across America want GOP lawmakers in Washington to do. Fighting the left's agenda at every turn on every issue and never giving an inch to radical members. A bipartisan group of 10 senators has reached an agreement on a $1 trillion infrastructure framework. The White House is currently reviewing the proposal. Although details of the agreement haven't been disclosed, the group said the cost of the new plan wouldn't cause any tax hikes. Biden initially proposed a $2.3 trillion plan. It included a corporate tax increase between 25 and 28%, as well as an increase for the top income tax bracket. The package wouldn't win Republican votes as hundreds of millions of dollars were dedicated to non-infrastructure items such as health care, and a key provision of the GOP's 2017 tax reform would be revoked. The negotiation between Biden and Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito hit a roadblock last week as the two sides failed to find common ground. Biden had to turn to the bipartisan group for a new proposal. If the White House accepts the reworked proposal, it'll become formal legislation to go through the House and Senate. However, if the bipartisan approach fails, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer launched a reconciliation process on June 16th as a second track. Democrats in Congress have one more chance to use budget reconciliation to bypass the 60-vote filibuster. However, that doesn't mean the second track is a guaranteed pass. So far, Democrat Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema won't support ramming another infrastructure proposal through the budget process. They both favor working with Republicans on the issue and were part of the 10-senator bipartisan group. Manchin said he would never ask any of his colleagues for an ironclad commitment, as some Democrats are requesting. I'm not a no, not a yes. I'm basically just evaluating everything they put in front of me. Yesterday, Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin met in Geneva to discuss a wide range of issues amid a low point in U.S.-Russia relations. In an effort to diffuse tensions, the two decided to send their ambassadors to their respective posts after pulling them home earlier this year. Critics are already blasting Biden for achieving little in the meeting. During the summit, Putin said he's looking for an agreement with Biden in order to rein in global cyber warfare. But Russian president refused to take any responsibility for cyber attacks against the U.S., including the one against Colonial Pipeline. On the issue of human rights, Putin dodged questions when pressed about his treatment of political opponents, specifically the jailing of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Putin refused to call Navalny by his name. He said this man knew he was breaking the law of Russia and quickly changed the subject. At a solo press conference on Wednesday, Biden summed up his meeting with Putin as not about trust, but verification of self-interest. Biden claimed he did what he came to do, but he isn't confident that Putin will change.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident in changing behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time?
So
when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is that the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
Putin, on the other hand, called Biden a very experienced politician while noting many of their joint positions are divergent. A federal judge in Louisiana blocked Biden from suspending new oil and gas leases on federal land and water. The ruling put a pause on the administration's effort to transition away from fossil fuels. In March, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry filed a 13-state lawsuit against the Biden administration. The lawsuits called Biden's executive ban of oil and gas leases irresponsible for American families' livelihood, an attack on energy independence, and an aggressive abuse of presidential power. Landry and plaintiffs from other states argued that the Biden administration bypassed comment periods and other bureaucratic steps necessary before halting the drilling permits. On June 15th, Judge Terry Doty ruled the plaintiff states' claims are substantial. Millions and possibly billions of dollars are at stake, and the Biden administration failed to provide adequate rationale for its decision. Judge Doty granted a preliminary injunction on halting new drilling permits. Currently, the lawsuit is going through the courts in states affected by the ban. Starting in the fall, Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee plans to charge non-vaccinated students $1,500 per semester as part of a health and safety fee. Rhodes announced the policy last week and explained the charge is to cover mandatory testing costs. Vaccinated students won't need to do regular testing, wear masks, or social distance, but non-vaccinated students will be required to quarantine upon arrival, wear masks, practice social distancing, and complete weekly testing for the virus. Depending on campus positivity rates, non-vaccinated students may not be allowed to participate in certain activities including athletics, clubs, and student organizations. The policy has made not getting the jab extremely difficult. How many students could afford not to get the shot? Vaccine exemption on religious or medical grounds may be submitted, but the announcement didn't say whether these students are subject to the same strict requirements. On the school's website, it states, Rhodes plans to require the COVID-19 vaccine upon FDA approval. And before that happens, the school is committed to campus-wide vaccination and strongly recommends faculty, staff, and students get vaccinated. But it seems like the new policy is essentially forcing everyone to get vaccinated. Now, before we continue, please hit that like button and subscribe. And most importantly, share this video with your friends and family. Word of mouth is the most effective way to spread the truth. If you want to support Eye Opener, please consider donating to the show or purchasing a mug that matters. You can find the link in the description below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Salute. The recently published 2020 Federal Human Trafficking Report confirmed traffickers take advantage of social media to find victims. Facebook is the traffickers' biggest platform, accounting for 59% of their online recruitment last year. The report says despite Facebook's reputation as a less popular platform among teenagers, it's effective in recruiting child sex trafficking victims. Among social media platforms, Facebook accounts for 65% of child victims recruitment and 36% of adults. An NBC report shows that Facebook pages had multiple posts a day, some from apparent smugglers, also known as coyotes, posting ads, other from desperate Central Americans seeking information about how best to immigrate to the U.S. Typical smuggling posts read, travel to Mexico to the United States, cost $8,000, 100% safe, and cross through Matamoros. You walk for 1 hour, after in an automobile, until you arrive at your relative. Facebook policies claim it prohibits human exploitation and trafficking and will remove such content when it is identified or flagged by users. The evidence says those claims are largely false. Given the speed Facebook flags fact checks and removes content related to issues such as January 6th Capitol riot, 2020 election, and earlier the COVID-19 virus leak theory, the social media giant is totally capable of taking down the smuggling posts. If you don't make an effort to shut down human trafficking, but rather allow it to go rampant on your platform, you become complicit. After Facebook, the most common sites in active sex trafficking cases were Instagram, WeChat, and Snapchat. Facebook-owned Instagram contributed another 13% of online recruitment of human trafficking victims. Some other platforms that traffickers use include MeetMe, Craigslist, WhatsApp, Skip the Games, Mega Personals, and Backpage. Conservative stronghold Texas is in the forefront on a number of issues. The state became the latest to ban critical race theory and the 1619 Project being taught in public schools. Governor Greg Abbott on Tuesday signed the measure into law. The bill doesn't mention CRT by name, but states that teachers, governments, employees, and school districts cannot teach concepts such as one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex, an individual bears responsibility for past actions by people of the same race or sex, or the advent of slavery in America constituted the true founding of the country. Teachers or school districts cannot teach the 1619 Project either. The 1619 Project was published by the New York Times. It attempts to cast the Atlantic slave trade as the dominant factor in the founding of America, instead of ideals such as individual liberty and natural rights. The bill also has a long list of historical texts that can be taught in classrooms. It includes founding documents of the United States, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, and the Emancipation Proclamation. On the same day, Abbott signed another bill protecting religious freedom. The new law prohibits government agencies and public officials from closing places of worship. The bill's sponsor, State Rep Scott Sanford, said churches provide essential spiritual, mental, and physical support in a time of crisis. Closing churches not only eliminates these critical ministries and services, but it violates their religious freedom, guaranteed by our laws and Constitution. Last year, when Abbott shut down Texas because of the COVID-19 pandemic, churches were included. The governor was sued and urged by spiritual leaders to reopen places of worship and categorize them as essential. Abbott later reversed the order. On Wednesday, Abbott unveiled key components of the state's plan to build its own border barriers. He authorized $250 million as a down payment to kickstart the process. This payment will be used to hire a project manager and contractors for the wall. In a statement, Abbott said that the Biden administration has abandoned its responsibilities to secure the border and Texans are suffering as a result. In the Biden administration's absence, Texas is stepping up to get the job done by building the border wall. In Georgia, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger announced his office is investigating Fulton County. The county was unable to produce ballot drop box transfer documents for absentee ballots. About 400 mail-in ballot transfer forms are still missing, which would account for approximately 19,000 votes. This number is significant. Joe Biden only won Georgia by fewer than 12,000 votes. Biden typically received more mail-in ballots in each state, and Georgia was no exception. Election rules require every Georgia county must use and maintain transfer forms. This documents the chain of custody for absentee ballots collected from drop boxes. A group of Georgia voters alleged in a petition that they witnessed an abnormal increase in Biden vote count in Fulton County while they were observing the election. This discovery of the missing forms comes after a judge ordered an audit of Fulton County's mail-in ballots. Now, even though the examination won't be a forensic audit and currently has been postponed, the effort is able to catch low-level irregularities in the voting process. The missing forms have just proved it. Fulton isn't the first county in Georgia investigated for its handling of the transfer forms. In April, Raffensperger opened up investigations into Coffee, Grady, and Taylor counties, which all failed to do their absentee ballot transfer documentation. In Arizona, the lead audit company, Cyber Ninjas, has finished hand counting the 2.1 million ballots. Machine counting of the ballot is ongoing. The audit is on track to end on June 26. Democrats and mainstream media haven't stopped denouncing the audit. You may think that's because they're afraid of what the results might be, but there's more to that. Former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik offered his opinion. Kerik toured the audit floor in Maricopa County. As someone who spent decades working in security and law enforcement at the highest level, he said it is a massive understatement to say he was impressed by the attention to detail and how conscientious the auditors are. Kerik said the Arizona audit is using the same methods casinos have used for decades to catch cheaters. Visitors were accompanied all the time by audit personnel. The audit is conducted in several stages at different locations throughout the Coliseum. The tables and the workers' clothing are color-coded, making it easy for anyone to spot if someone strays from their assigned area. Each table is live streamed for public viewing, and procedures are designed to catch anything improper. Coming back to Democrats' outcry, they aren't just afraid of the outcome. Kerik said they know their efforts to discredit the audit process won't stand up to the scrutiny, and that's their real fear. Arizona voters deserve this audit. After all is said and done, the final reports are expected in a month or two. And that's it for today, my friends. Please check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me on the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, and Parler. Don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in contact with each other. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.